Hi, I'm Jeff Hoyt, Editor-in-Chief of SeniorLiving.Org. For many seniors, a hearing aid can make a huge difference in quality of life. But at thousands of dollars a pair, plus professional fees including fitting, the high costs prevent millions of Americans from getting the help that they need. Could over-the-counter hearing aids help you hear better and improve your quality of life at a fraction of the price? I asked audiologist Brad Ingrao to discuss the changing status of over-the-counter hearing aids. Now, if you're hard of hearing, please enable closed captioning for this video. Because of social distancing, I conducted the interview with Dr. Ingrao via Zoom. Hi, it's Jeff Hoyt, Editor-in-Chief of SeniorLiving.Org, and today I have the pleasure of talking to audiologist Brad Ingrao. We're going to be talking about over-the-counter hearing aids. Welcome, Brad.
Hi, Jeff. Good to be back with you guys.
Great having you. So basically, people may know what over-the-counter means. You don't need a prescription from a doctor, and people know what hearing aids are. But putting the two together, what exactly do we mean by over-the-counter hearing aids?
Sure. Well, if we go all the way back to the beginnings of hearing aids, they were devices, ear trumpets, and early electronic devices that were sold literally by door-to-door salesmen. And in the 70s-ish, we started to tighten up a little bit how we provided those devices, and licensure laws started to come into effect, whereby because there was a potential with more powerful hearing aids that an improperly set hearing aid might damage hearing, there was a push through the FDA to regulate hearing aids as medical devices. And when that happened, there was a requirement that they had to be prescribed and fitted by a person who was bound by certain licensing criteria. And this was audiologists or hearing instrument specialists. Built into that, there was also some requirements to look out for what they call red flags, which were things like if your hearing was very different on one ear, or you might have an ear infection, something like that, that would signal that dispensing professional, hey, let's get this person also to a medical doctor, make sure there's no problem there. Well, what ended up happening was that protected the consumer, but it also created a very limited ability for people to get hearing aids. You had to be able to get to one of those guys like me that was able to, fit into that. And over the years, as people were looking at the hearing aid market, we sort of got stuck at around 20, 25%. And what I've always felt was that the market penetration, or the ability for us to really reach all the people who needed hearing help, was partially limited by our small little channel of dispensing. So the over-the-counter concept was much like medications, which when they first come out are very highly regulated. But after many years, something like Zantac or medications for reflux that were initially prescription items, after many years of demonstrated safety, they start to say, you know what, if we limit the dosage and we limit the audience, we can safely allow people to have these on their own. And so with some pushing from the consumer community, including HLAA, the Hearing Loss Association of America, and AARP, we now have the FDA working on a process of allowing hearing aids of a certain type to be offered to a certain group of people over the counter, which means that they wouldn't have to come to my office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They could potentially, have that Thanksgiving dinner and finally say, okay, enough's enough. I'm getting a hearing aid, and leave and go into the living room and get on the internet and buy a hearing aid.
So right now, there are no such things as over-the-counter hearing aids in the United States. They're not legal yet. They're just working on the process, correct?
Correct. The original plan was that by August of 2020, the initial regulations or the initial fitting guidance was going to be published by the FDA, and then there was going to be a period of public comment. Well, Obviously, we've had a little bit of a snag in 2020, and the FDA is busy with some other stuff. I don't really know exactly when they're going to get back around to it, but their website, the last I checked, says we're working on it. So there aren't any devices technically that meet that criteria. However, there are hearing aids that you can buy over the internet.
And what about ads I see like in the back of magazines for $49.95 for things that should boost my hearing? Do they qualify?
Well, for those $49.99 deals, they're probably not over-the-counter hearing aids. There's another classification of devices from the FDA called personal sound amplification products, or PSAPs. And these are devices that are technically not intended to improve your hearing, but they enhance sound, quote unquote, for entertainment value or bird watching or whatever. A lot of these, if you look under the hood, are very basic hearing aid type devices, but they're technically not hearing aids. And so you can buy things from $29.99 at Walgreens all the way up to several $100s in this PSAP category that are technically not supposed to be used to improve your hearing, but of course people do use those. They're not regulated by the FDA like a hearing aid is. A lot of times they'll be advertised as registered with the FDA or FDA registered, and all that means is it's a product and it's kind of like supplements, you know, it's not a tested medical product, but the FDA knows about it.
So even though the timeline is lengthy, I believe it was 2017 when the FDA first said, hey, we're going to allow over-the-counter hearing aids. And then if it weren't for the COVID-19 debacle of 2020, there was a deadline of August of 2020 this year when there was supposed to be the next step. So this is a long drawn out process, even without delays due to COVID-19. So it's hard to say when they'll kick back in, but I assume the long process is to make sure these products are as safe as possible, that because a professional like you isn't fitting them, that they won't harm consumers who buy them.
Well, I think that's honestly, that's what my profession would like you to believe. I've not seen any research or any data to show that any hearing aid made in the last 20 years can actually hurt somebody. All of those products, particularly in the last 15, 20 years, are amplifiers that have a maximum amount of power that can be put into them. And much like an exotic sports car that's brought to the US and is throttled down so that it can't go 200 miles an hour, the hearing aids do the same thing. A lot of the argument against over-the-counter hearing aids is, frankly, my profession trying to hang on to a protected sales space. Now, that being said, there are some medical problems that really need to be addressed. But as I look at the world and I look at technology, there's a lot of ways that an over-the-counter hearing aid, and I'm anxious for the initial guidance to come out so I can write my own response to these and get this in the record. There's a lot of really inexpensive technology. I mean, the whole issue of, you know, there's a red flag called noticeable deformity of the ear. Well, I could take my phone and I could take a picture of my ear, and that could be part of the process of ordering one of these devices. And if one of my ears is really wonky or very different from the other, then the software could say, hang on a second, Brad, you've got a wonky ear. You should go see a doctor. So I really feel like all of the concern about harming people is overblown, and it's really our insecurity about our sales space masked as that.
Great. So you anticipated my question that the release of these over-the-counter hearing aids would harm the business of people like yourself, audiologists who are licensed to sell these.
You know, I don't know that it will. I think that that's the fear. But as I look at that 20% market penetration problem, I really strongly feel that it's the limited market space rather than anything else. Now, realistically, there's a lot of people, just like voting. You can vote. There's a lot of ways to vote now, but there's a lot of people who really feel the only safe way to vote is to go and stand in line and push the lever. There's a lot of people who want to get their hearing aids that way. And I think that if we just relax from the perspective of the professional and really focus more on crafting that user experience that is that face-to-face concierge level kind of care and stop worrying about the device, then we're going to be able to not only keep our market, that is the people who like to see us face-to-face, but we'll be able to build on that. And then the people who, like myself, I'm a mid-50s-year-old high-tech guy. I would prefer a more, I don't want to see your face kind of an experience. So I feel like there's 80% of the world that needs hearing help that has never been served by me. So if they get served somewhere else, that's not hurting my 20%. I don't really anticipate people who have had successful experiences within my system are going to jump ship. And if they do, then I'm not doing a very good job in my customer service.
And not only will it be more convenient for the 80% of people who with hearing issues that are not being served right now, but can we talk about costs at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it provides a great opportunity for not only reduced costs because of reduced overhead, like I don't have to have a $150,000 booth set up and all of that garbage, but it also provides the opportunity for more innovation. So if we have 20 companies worldwide that make hearing aids versus, I don't know, 300, 400 that make electronics who go, oh, you know what? We can do this or we can do that. You know, we have hearing aid companies learning how to write smartphone apps. We could maybe have smartphone app companies learning how to do hearing. And so I think that because it can also bring in more expertise and bring in many, many more players, we have much more competition. And when we have competition, particularly when we move from the devices, the whole thing, to maybe the software is the thing, then I feel like there's going to be opportunities for me to go, just like I do on my iPad, I need a photo editor, so I'm going to try this. And oh, it's $19.95. Okay, I'll try that. Okay, now I can upgrade to the Pro version. Okay, that's another $20 or $30. That's a good opportunity to develop more innovation. And it also gives me, as the person with the hearing loss, a lot more control. And the one thing I've learned over almost 30 years doing this is the biggest problem people with hearing loss have is their hearing loss takes control of their life. And if we can, as a group of professionals, encourage the development of more opportunities for people to control that experience of improving their hearing, I think everybody's going to benefit. And the more people we have participating in this, the more volume the whole industry gets. And when volume goes up, price comes down.
Well, it looks like it's still going to be months, if not years, before the first over-the-counter hearing aids come to market and we see what happens. But really appreciate you discussing these issues. For more on over-the-counter hearing aids, come to SeniorLiving.org. You can look at our hearing aid buyer's guide and get a lot of information from Dr. Ingrao. Thank you very much, Brad, for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Appreciate it.